The sirens began their haunting wail in the pre-dawn darkness. It was a sound that had become tragically familiar across Ukraine, but not here, not in Poland, not within the borders of a NATO country. But on this morning, September 10, 2025, everything changed. More than a dozen Russian drones veered off course. They didn't just skirt the border, they plunged deep into Polish airspace. This was not a stray missile or a momentary glitch, this was a swarm. And it demanded a response that would echo across the globe, setting a precedent that could alter the course of the entire conflict. For over 3.5 years, NATO allies had walked a tightrope, providing aid while avoiding direct engagement. Russian drones and missiles had occasionally brushed against NATO airspace before. Fleeting incursions met with condemnation but not fire. This time was different. The sheer number and path forced Poland's hand. Fighter jets scrambled, engines roaring through the morning sky. The order was given. For the first time, a NATO member opened fire on Russian military assets. The night of watching and waiting was over. The Polish armed forces acted with swift precision, working in concert with NATO's integrated air defense system, which included advanced Dutch F-35s. They engaged the hostile targets. Explosions lit up the sky over eastern Poland. This wasn't just about defending airspace, it was about defending the very principle of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. An attack on one is an attack on all. And tonight, the attack had come. The world watched, holding its breath. The initial reports were frantic, filled with the confusion of war spilling over a critical red line. Had it been a mistake? A navigational error? As the details emerged, a far more sinister picture began to form. This was no accident, this was a message. Vladimir Putin, it seemed, was testing the alliance. He was asking a question that night, a question written in the flight paths of his Iranian-made Shahed drones. How far will you go? Poland, with NATO's backing, had just given its answer. The question now was, what would Russia do next? For ordinary Polish citizens, especially those in the east, the war that had been a constant, grim presence across the border suddenly became terrifyingly real. The sound of air defense systems firing, a sound they had only heard in news reports from Kiev or Lviv, was now overhead. It was one thing to know you were a frontline state, it was another to hear the explosions and see the flashes of light in your own sky. Fear rippled through communities. Phone lines buzzed as families checked on one another. The abstract threat of war had materialized into a tangible, immediate danger, bringing with it a level of anxiety not felt in generations. The disruption to daily life was swift and widespread. Multiple airports were ordered to shut down completely. Warsaw's Chopin, Warsaw Modlin, Brzezo Jasionka, and Lublin. The skies were now a closed-off battleground. Near Chosnauka, police confirmed debris believed to be from a damaged Russian drone. It was no longer a distant conflict on a screen. It was wreckage in a Polish field. Fear, anger, and a resilient determination. Poland had been tested and had not backed down. Social feeds filled with shaky videos, shock, and defiance. Analysts concluded this was intentional, a coordinated wave. Kaja Kallas said indications suggest it was intentional. Tusk called it a large-scale provocation. Experts, first a test of detection and response, second, a test of political will. Senator Dick Durbin, a fair warning. Putin is testing our resolve. Russia has long probed NATO. This was a dangerous escalation. The goal, psychological pressure, to recast NATO as the aggressor despite Polish sovereignty. This deliberate violation has pushed NATO into its most critical moment since the Cold War. The alliance acted decisively and collectively, proof that the promise is real. Will Moscow de-escalate or seize a pretext for further aggression? Every cable, every movement, every word, scrutinized for what comes next. A dangerous precedent. Future incursions, drone, missile, or aircraft, may now meet force. Deterrent reinforced or opening salvo of a wider, more dangerous phase. The next moves will decide.